And we are live on YouTube.
Cool.
All right.
Can you see it
So,
there? Yeah.
yeah, we see it here. So you can go ahead and mute everybody except me, Steve. Thank you.
Well, or just mute yourselves because
Okay.
basically we're not playing one at a time. This is kind of a discussion. So
Right.
I left it
Yeah.
open.
Okay.
But mute yourself because of noise, I guess is a better way to put
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody mute yourself and welcome to SongNet, everybody. How's it going? So this is our first virtual meeting and hopefully not the last. We're going to be doing a whole lot of cool stuff here in SongNet. We do have our regular showcase coming up on the 20th. So be sure you come in for that. But tonight we want to do something a little bit different because thanks to COVID and everything else, we have a lot of people with a lot of questions, and there's a lot of opportunities that keep coming up online that people don't seem to be addressing or getting attached to. And I wanted to make sure that for those of you that have never done this kind of a thing before, that it's really okay. It's not something to be scared of. It's not something that's going to suck down your computer. It's not the kind of thing that's going to cause copyright infringement and all that other stuff, because really, we do have some supportive communities around. We have some amazing artists that are willing to help, and we've got some really cool stuff going on. Tonight we have our tech guy, Stephen GC, up in the corner there. So wave, Steve, say hello. And we have Wes Mason all the way from the East Coast. Hi, Wes. So you can wave a little bit there so people know who you are. And Wes has been helping out with one of the open mics that I've been going to regularly out on the East Coast. The host is based in New York, but in fact, the crew is predominantly from the Pittsburgh area. But more and more people are starting to come in from around the world. Last night, in fact, they had a open mic, and at the end of the open mic, one of the participants asked, "So where are you from?" And we had 5 states represented just in that last thing there. So that's pretty cool. It means that people are coming in from all over the place. We're finally starting to realize that this is a global village, and those
Yeah, you
global,
had Australia and New Zealand too.
yeah, and that's part of the whole thing that's going on here, is that we do have opportunities. We do have people that we can make what we can have as friends, so that when restrictions are lifted, we can start moving around a little bit more, and we can make things happen with each other. And I'm excited about those possibilities and that potential. So let's see here. Alexandra, been a long time. Hi. Good to see you there too. Yeah.
Hi, so good to see you.
Yeah. And because of the things that are going on too, and because of the internet, we're able to do this sort of a thing. I just said hi to Alexandra. She hasn't been able to make it to one of our physical meetings for quite a while. A lot of artists, Donna, I think, had also mentioned that she couldn't make it to the physical meetings because her work schedule and everything else. We have a couple of people here also from the East Coast and Connecticut that, again, or Baltimore, right? You're in Baltimore there, Will. Yeah, see? So, that's the thing. We're able to do these sort of things. We're able to make those things happen. Also, there's things like taxi that have gone virtual. Jason just went to the virtual taxi meeting this afternoon and got to learn a whole lot about not just taxi, but the industry as well. Because there's people that come in from the music industry to taxi, and they're able to talk about what's going on. They're able to explain and share a little bit about who they are, what they do, and provide opportunities again. We're going to be able to do pitches and things like that too. I promise you that. In fact, we're going to be having our first pitch night next month. That'll be on February 3rd with Joanne Ledesma. Joanne usually is our very first guest speaker for SongNet, has been for the last few years, because we always like to start off with an opportunity for everybody to have their music heard and to get their stuff placed. And so that's been really good. And so we're looking forward to having Joanne on February 3rd. I'm going to post some of her stuff over in the chat. That's another thing that's very important and very cool about these Zoom meetings as well, is that we have that chat box on the side. For those of you who've not done too much Zooming, the chat box on the side is a place where you can post things back and forth. You can also select individuals that are on your grid if you're in the gallery view, and you can talk to them directly, which is a very cool thing. because it's almost like, just sitting there next to somebody at a meeting and saying, "Hey, man, you smell that?" So it's a very cool thing. We're able to do these sort of things here again. So online, once again, we've got opportunities, and you don't have to be afraid of them. So what I'm going to do right now, since Joanne asked me to drop these things here, I will do that real quick. Today, I also wanted to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to share a little bit and talk a little bit about their own experiences. And since we're still pretty small yet, what I wanted to do was just kind of go around and let everybody introduce themselves and just briefly explain who they are, what they do, and what their needs are. And I'm going to start writing these things down so that we know who needs what and how we might be able to address those things in the future. So just let everybody go through it. Please don't just jump in on comments. Thank you. We're just going to go ahead and let everybody run through. So we're going to go ahead and start off with Mark Rebez here. Mark has been really essential for one of the open mics that we do because he also does a lot of stuff on Twitter. So Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself here?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jimmy. So yeah, I do indie folk, blues rock music. I just started in the pandemic. Like I got my first track onto Spotify in October, and I'm just here to learn and to find out as much about what I can do with it. I've been emailing my stuff basically across the globe, getting some of my first interviews and reviews and such out there, podcasts, etc. So yeah, here to learn.
Okay, I'm just going to go down my grid. Justin also goes by a different name online, but Justin, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and all that?
Hi, I'm Justin. Go by Gus Bow on Facebook, kind of like a stage name sort of thing. But yeah, I'm a multi-instrumentalist and songwriter, but right now I'm mainly focusing on putting on open mics, and I have them usually on Sundays in California time, Pacific Standard Time, around noon. But I think this Sunday we have it at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it's going to be it's a benefit show. Now each open mic that we do, we kind of give to nonprofit organizations that are in need in community around here in Central California. And yeah, I'm just here to learn a little bit more, and did a lot of songwriting in like March and stuff. But then started getting more into promoting, putting on open mics since like November. But looking forward to learning some new stuff.
Thank you. Okay, next we got Jason on my grid. Jason, why don't you talk about yourself here?
First off, Jimmy, your grid is my grid is your grid. So thank you, Jimmy, for doing this. I seriously don't know what I'd be doing these last couple months without your direction and all that. So thank you for doing this. My name is Jason Trachtenberg. I'm a songwriter from Brooklyn, New York City. I specialize in musical theater. I've written 2 full-on musicals, and I have a big band orchestra. I do not know how to write music like notation, but I surround myself with those who do. And I'm always working on new songs, and yeah, I got a bunch of new ones coming up as well too. Look forward to learning a lot about the business. I'm not the best at music business, so looking forward to learning about music business. Thanks, Jimmy.
Great, yeah, because that's what we're here for. Not just the business, but also to network with each other here. Okay, next we got Will Sims.
Thanks, Jimmy. My name is Will. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm a solo singer, songwriter. I do pop, rock, alternative type music. I work in the production industry, so I do a lot of sound, lighting, video stuff for work. So I have a lot of knowledge of like the front end and the back end stuff. And just over the years, I've been spending, I try to learn a lot about the industry. I've attended a few music conferences and tried to learn the different ins and outs of it. And yeah, just hope to keep growing my knowledge. You know, it's never too much knowledge you can have.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, great. Well, Steve Desens, you want to say who you are, what you're doing, all that?
Well, I just write poetry and lyrics. I have some ideas for a couple of tunes, but I don't write music. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee, where I was born. My father was in the Navy, and there was a naval base there in Memphis that my mom met him at. And I've lived all across the country on the East Coast and West Coast.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks, Stephen. Appreciate you being here. And if you could mute yourself too, by the way, when you're not speaking, so that we don't get all the noise. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. If you can mute yourself. And then Dave Strauss, what's up, man?
Hey, Jimmy. I just dropped my web address in the chat here in case anybody wants to look me up. All my links to my social media are on my website. So reach out, make friends. I'm a indie alt rock singer-songwriter. I'm a DIY guy. I play several instruments. I'm a recording engineer, producer. So when I make music, I do everything myself. Play all the parts, sing all the parts, do all the engineering and everything myself. No other humans involved. Unless it's a band I'm in. I've been in a lot of bands over the years too. I usually end up being the bass player, but I've been in a few bands. I've played other instruments, but yeah.
And do you still do the podcast?
No, that's another thing I did. I had an internet radio program called Flat Cat Radio that ran from 2007 through 2010, and it was a weekly live show that was a podcast. And I'd have one guest artist each week. I'd interview them. I would play some of their recorded, produced tracks, and I'd have them play some live. And I would, and then the shows would be podcast. And I had artists mainly from around the Southern California area, but I had some too that were from out of town that were touring through that I managed to, book. And it was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work. It was definitely a lot of work. And I got a little bit too busy with my day job and finally had to quit doing that. But in 2016, I tried to bring back Flat Cat Radio as like a live concert streaming show where I'd go to venues where, somebody's band was playing and set up and stream the entire show live and podcast that. And I did that for a few months. And once again, I kind of got too busy with work and didn't have time to do much of that. And now with COVID, everything's online anyway. So, but it's kind of in my back pocket, Flat Cat Radio. I can whip it out in some form or fashion if needed. I've got social media pages in place for it all over the place. flatcatradio.com links to my website, flatcatrecords.net. And I've also got all the archives from all the hundreds of artists I had on back in the day that are available by request. I'll send you an MP3 if you want to hear somebody's show.
Sure. Okay. Well, thanks, Dave.
Sure.
And then Wes Mason, all the way from the East Coast there.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just kind of fell into all this stuff over here. I've come from originally from New York and moved to Pittsburgh, where I got really heavily into the music scene, just as a photographer and making friends and just networking with lots of people. And that's how I met Victory. And then at one point, I think it was it would have to have been February or early March. She approached me saying, "Hey, I want to do an online open mic. Do you have any idea how to do that?" And I was like, "Let's see what we can do." And here we are today. We've already done our 40th episode. No, sorry, that would have been the 42nd episode that we just did. Jimmy hosted it, but I would say out of everything though, the New Year's Eve was probably the most crazy thing that we did. So yeah.
It was a great
16
thing.
hours.
Yep, 16 hours, please. Thank you very much. Okay, well, now my grid changed a little bit, but we still got Nancy. Oh, you're still muted, Nancy.
Unmute. There we
There
go.
you go.
So I'm in LA by way of Detroit, and from some years back. And I'm a songwriter, and my influences, I think the best thing to say is, well, Jimmy, I want to see if you agree with this. I'm an indie songwriter or singer-songwriter, but I prefer just songwriter, because what I really want is to have other artists cover my songs. And but my influences originally were like Joni Mitchell, Carole King, Carly Simon. And so I don't know how to, Jimmy, to, which is one of the things I'd like to learn how to do better, define the genre of mine more succinctly. But in the meantime, those are my influences in the type of music I seem to write. I want to learn. I've been asked, why aren't you playing on these podcasts or on the, all these type of shows you're talking about? And I don't have the equipment. I'm not even sure what I actually need. So I would probably seek some guidance here on to what would I need in order to at least attempt to do a live song, and hopefully have it somewhat of a decent sound quality. So that's for sure. And then lately I've been working on pushing for PR, my project that I've been working on since April. It's a song called Frontline Strong that I developed specifically to give voice to and honor and celebrate frontline workers, healthcare workers, and volunteers that are serving coronavirus patients. So I wrote a song called Frontline Strong, and I developed a video for it as well. And I performed all the instruments with the exception of bass. And that's an instrument I seek to learn to play, actually. But I did everything else on it. And then I really did write it kind of as a fundraiser, because I'm trying to raise some funds for frontline workers. And also, it's the first time I ever put a song for sale, because typically I've put them up on SoundCloud or Reverb Nation, and then perform in showcases pre-COVID, and started picking up speed in that regard. I was finally getting invitation to play showcases when the COVID finally hit, and it kind of put the brakes on everything. So then Jimmy's saying, well, you need to be doing these on the internet. And I'm like shying away, A, because I don't have the equipment, and B, I just started getting the confidence to do it live at SongNet and Songs Alive and so forth, and enjoying it very much when all of a sudden this terrible pandemic hit. So what I have been doing during the pandemic time is a lot of writing. And so I'm trying to build up my catalog, and so that by the time we're ready to get back to a semblance or whatever the new life will emerge as, I'll feel kind of more prepared and have new material to present. And then through SongNet, etc., I really want to continue the networking that has been very key to just meeting some wonderful people and having other opportunities present themselves, actually, whether they be business or the pleasure of just playing. So I look forward to future, meetups. And then as far as just lastly, to address the co-writing part, Dave Strauss, well, what happened was on Songs Alive, they were asking about pairing up with co-writers. And I really haven't done much co-writing in quite a long time. And it wasn't really something I did. I was more like you, Dave, where you just play the instruments and handle it yourself. But I started looking at Dave's stuff through, I saw him actually play at SongNet, and then through Songs Alive, and then started watching his posts and listening to his SoundCloud and all that. And I just loved everything he did. And I found myself harmonizing to it. And I realized I almost felt like I knew the music. It felt so comfortable. That's the reason why I thought, you know what, if I have to co-write, if I'm ever going to attempt to do that, I would love to try to do something with him. But now I understand that since he's a one-man band, it may not be his what he really wants to do. But
No,
I
that's
do
not
enjoy
true,
your music.
Nancy. I love your music too.
Well, we'll see.
I hear
Well,
harmonies
Dave,
on
Dave,
yours
Dave,
and
Dave,
bass
Dave,
lines too.
Dave, please. I'm sorry, but we're trying to just kind of zoom right through. Thanks. I
But
appreciate. Yeah.
that's it. I'm just saying that and so anyway, SongNet has been a great opportunity for me to meet some wonderful people and learn an awful lot about the business end of it as well as the creative side. And that's it for me, Jimmy.
Okay, thanks. Well, we'll definitely keep all those things in mind. There's a lot of stuff going on there, Nancy, but it's all good. And
Thank you.
and congratulations on getting your 1,000 viewers on that song.
Thank you
there.
very much.
Okay, Alexandra, it's been a long time. How you been? What's up? What you need?
Hello. I'm so glad that SongNet is back and you have been on my mind and I've missed you. So thank you for doing this. I have not had a musical coronavirus. I've had a productive coronavirus, but not a creative coronavirus. I'm not working in the music industry. I work as a screenwriting contest judge and screenwriting teacher. That's been my corona day jobs. So I want to move forward with my music, which involves finishing some songs that I have unfinished. I'm not sure what my next steps are or what I need in what order, but these are some of the things that I see that I need from where I'm sitting now, and that could change the more I learn and grow. But I think that I do need help taking my voice to the next level. I think that I could, and I haven't found the right coach for that. I think I need help taking my songs to the next level and also getting an album of spiritual, I call them folk. Joanne Ledesma did not think I write folk, but I'm sticking to it. I write folk, spiritual folk songs, and about topics that are meaningful to me. And what else? There was one other thing I thought I wanted to say. Oh, I'm also trying to figure out if it's worth the investment or if it's more of a headache for me and I should just focus on the finishing the music that I'm writing. But I'm toying with the idea of setting up my little home studio, and trying to get experience recording myself, just so when I go into the studio, I will be more, I'll have more experience. I've recorded some demos in studios, but I need more practice. So I'm trying to figure out what I need to do in order to get my album produced in the best possible way. That's what I think I need. Thank you so much.
All right, great. Yeah, well, that's what we're all here for, and I'm glad that we can do that. And hey, guys, listen up. She's involved in the movie industry. In other words, she knows what's going on that side. So pay attention, man. All right, great. Well, thank you very much, Alexandra. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, so Lindy, it's been a long time, and Lindy is one of the artists that has been on the circuit for a long time as a professional musician. He also sent me a bunch of stuff recently, and that's why I asked him to show up here. So let's know a little bit about what you do and all that good stuff.
Yeah, hi Jimmy. Thanks for inviting me over. Yeah, I played for 45 years, supported myself performing for the last 40 years with a group called the Doo-Wah Riders. We had 7 albums out. Some chart success, mostly in Texas. We were originally country swing, country basically. I usually contributed 2-3 songs an album. And I finally retired from that after 40 years. I'm no quitter, but I finally quit after 40 years and just thought I'd try something else. And trying to be a solo guy is a whole different ball game for me. So I'm here to try and figure it out. So I record at home, and I've written lots and lots of songs. So thanks for having me along.
Okay. Well, that's what we're all here for, and again, if you're interested in some road stories, I'm sure Lindy's got plenty of those for you.
I've got lots of them. Yeah.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Linda.
Especially being the owner of 2 tour buses. Lots of stories.
2 tour buses. Wow.
Do not buy a bus.
Yeah, I've heard that from a few people actually.
Yeah.
A couple of friends that own them as well, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. Catherine, how's it going? Good to see you here.
I'm good. I'm good. I guess you could categorize me as a singer-songwriter, mostly Americana. I just retired a couple of years ago and decided to get back into music, and I finished a CD called Georgia Peach Skies in June, and just trying to get it out there it seems monumental now because with COVID and stuff, but so I just keep doing open mics and writing more music and collaborating with people. I just finished a song in the studio today that I wrote with Jimmy, Double Shot of Whiskey, and I'll send it to you, Jimmy. Anyway, and just having fun and meeting people, so many talented people that you never get to see or hear, but they're out there. And I just really appreciate all the help I've gotten from people and how to promote myself and get on this and do that. And I call Jimmy up and say, how do I do this? And he says, okay, you do this, you do this. And he's been really, really helpful. And so I like collaborating. If anybody wants to listen to my CD, I'll put my website on. You can listen to it and say, oh, okay, I kind of like that kind of music. And, so that's what I do.
All right, great. Thank you, Catherine. And Pat, it's been a while. Good to hear from you. Good to see you.
Hey, Jimmy.
All right.
Well, I have come back after an absence of many years. I moved from the Santa Clarita Valley to Westwood, and it became too hard to get to the other side of town for everything, for gigs, for SongNet meetings, for parties, for a lot of things. And now that we're online, I guess this is a silver lining from the pandemic, but it's a nice opportunity for me to reconnect and drop back in and see what more I can learn. First of all, I want to say, Will Sims, Baltimore. That's right. That's my hometown. We should talk. So there's that. And that's another thing is the networking. That's one of the things that I always appreciated about it. I met one of the finest collaborators that I ever had. I met at one of your workshops over at the Coffee Gallery, Ed Posick. And we wound up just having a great time working together. I learned so much from him about music and how to play and how to sing and how to arrange and everything like that. So I'm not really sure what I want, which is kind of leaves me, that's kind of where I was in the first place. I'm just not sure what I want. I'm a songwriter who I sing my songs and I play them, but and I'm in that same bag. I thought, well, and I only came out and started playing about 10, maybe 11 years ago. I didn't really know anything about how anything worked. I mean, when I didn't know where to stash my guitar case when I walked into a place. I knew nothing. But I was confident in the songs, and I thought, well, I'll just get other people to sing the songs. And it took a while, 2, 3, 4 years before it kind of sunk in. I'm going to have to learn how to sing them, and that's just the facts of life. So that's what I'm about, is trying to learn how to sing them and play them and do justice to them and present them the way that I want them to be heard at their best. In the meantime, I've made 3 recording projects, and I'm starting now on a 4th. And I'm retired from the journalism business, and so it's I don't want to overstate it, but it's a bit of a luxury that I don't have to concern myself too much with the economics of it. Of course, I mean, it's an expensive habit, and I want the recording projects to pay for themselves. That hasn't happened yet. But I guess if I was trying to figure out anything, I'd be trying to figure out how to get wider distribution, wider reach for my music and get more people to hear it. And I guess that would be, if I was going to, I'm okay. I spend enough time on the writing and I work on the performing, and I try to learn what I can. But the distribution has always occurred to me as much more than a one-man job. So I've been trying to figure out how to get that done, how to use whatever leverage I have as one person to amplify whatever energy I have. I'm 72 years old, so energy is becoming a bigger issue than it used to be.
Well, I'm not too far behind you there, Pat. So
You-
tell you, energy levels are something that you got to really look at as you get a little bit older. But also, it provides you with that kind of knowledge and experience that helps you move forward and make things happen. And of course, being a former journalist, and you know a lot about why people read things, why people see things, do things, and hopefully why people buy things. So.
And just to say, I specialized in writing about entertainment. And so I've been on the receiving end of a million press kits. I kind of know what they look like, but that was then. And now everything's different. So I don't know anything.
Well, you do and you don't, because
Yeah.
there's certain things that will always remain. People will always be people. And even though the press kit format may change, the bottom line is that people still need to hear each other in the best way possible. And that's what it's all about. So thanks, Pat. We'll be keeping in touch with you for sure. And right now, let's listen to Donna Lynn Caskey. Hi, Donna. You there?
Hello.
There you are.
I made it. So yeah, my name is Donna Lynn Caskey. I live in Ventura, California, which is far enough on a weeknight where it's a real stretch usually for me to get to song night. But I think I've popped in a time or two over the years, and it's good to reconnect with Jimmy, be part of a song circle a few nights ago. So that was cool, and see this notice to hop on. So that is one advantage I'm finding of this time, being able to transcend the geographic limitations has been mentioned with these international and across country open mics and song sharing events. So I've been having a musically fruitful, changing time here. I've been writing a whole lot. Grateful. I'm part of this thing called I Heart Song Club that's based in Australia, and there are people in it from all over the world, but that's been a good music community for me that's kind of been encouraging my writing this year. Been writing a whole lot, keeping my hand in performing by doing some of these online showcases, song shares. I'm actually going to stream kind of my first solo, just sort of me, probably an hour of songs this coming Sunday, and I'm going to do it at a time where some of my East Coast folks can tune in easily. Doing like a 3:00 Pacific matinee, I guess, to be accommodating of that way, because some people have expressed interest, who normally can't make my shows when I'm mostly playing in the region. So that's another benefit I found. Some other advantages of this time have been like I was able to do a couple of like Mary Gaucher, songwriter Mary Gaucher's masterclass things. Like she offered a free one, I think on the 4th of July. So that's been neat because, she teaches all over the country, but it's not necessarily feasible to go to that so it's made it more accessible. Also, I'm signed up to go to the Durango Songwriter Expo, which is conveniently usually in my town. But, now it's going to be online. So I'll do that next month. And I signed up for the Folk Alliance International Conference that's coming up in February as well. And again, I haven't been to the national conference before, just accessibility reasons and timing and whatnot. But, granted, it's a different format this time, but at least it's a way to affordably and accessibly check it out in some way. So that's been cool. And as far as me, I'm often known as the banjo gal. I play clawhammer style banjo, but I've been known to push the envelopes because people often tell me like, I've never heard a song like that on banjo before. Where I'll write kind of punky rock songs, but then sort of more introspective folky things. My day job is as a field social worker, so I've still been working through all this. But I guess never ending material or insight into the human condition, but also really grateful for music and the networking and just more opportunities and finding the silver linings like this to transcend geography and network and be able to access things in new ways. I was, hoping to get into the studio and record some more. but I don't think it's real safe since I'm around a lot of people because of my job to go into a studio. So I guess kind of upskilling some of my tech stuff. I mean, I have some mics. I don't know. Sometimes I can be a bit of a technophobe, so I guess upskilling that would be definitely a growth area for me. But glad I can hop on tonight and take part. So thanks, y'all.
All right, thank you, Donna. That's great. Paul Rasmussen, you don't have your camera on, but I know you're there, and your brother's here. So, Paul, can you talk to us a little bit? Unmute. No. Okay. Paul, you gonna stay shy there?
I can talk for him.
Okay.
I know he's listening in. I guess he's just not online. He's been having trouble with his tablet. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, he's on a tablet. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my big brother, Paul.
Yeah. A lot of iPad type things have been having some issues lately. I think there's some new operating and all that. Okay, well, no problem, Paul. We know that you're there, and everything will be archived on YouTube, so no problem that you'll be able to see it later. Pat Bryant is also someone who's been on the circuit for quite a while. Good to see you here, Pat. You can unmute and say hello, and we're just introducing ourselves, what we do, and what things we're looking for.
Hello, I'm Pat Bryant, live in the LA area, and I have been writing songs for a long time. And I just released a collection of songs to streaming a few months ago. So if you're ever on Spotify or the other services, just search my name. Other than that, I've kind of been missing having open mics or showcases to go to. So this is kind of cool.
All right. Well, I see that Justin just posted his over on the chat. So I want you guys to make sure you get that. And for those of you that have not had an opportunity to go to open mics or anything else, or you do have some open mics, please put that in the chat. Also, one of the things about Zoom is that you can save the chat to your computer and then bring it across later on to like a Word document or something like that. So, please do that when you can right now. The only problem with Zoom is that quite often actually what really happens is if you log in late, then it only shows what is in the chat after you've logged in. So there's a lot of cool stuff that's up ahead of it. We may try to figure out a way to archive some of that stuff as well, so that if any of you are interested, then you can look in our website at the www.thesongnet.org or songnet.info, and we will have those listings for you there so that you can check them out. There's a lot of open mics out there, and it's a really good way to network, as usual, just like at any other open mic. And of course, you're able to meet people that way. That's part of the distribution that's important too, because one of the things that happens is the more people you know, then the more things become viral. I'm finding that out myself because, again, I've been playing a lot of different online open mics, and all of a sudden, I go to my YouTube page and I'm seeing people that are liking it and people commenting from Mumbai. It's like, whoa, Mumbai, what's that about, And that's exciting. And then, of course, even more people that are becoming friends, people that I could talk to, not just at the open mic, but other places too, from the East Coast and Australia. So that's been really exciting. But even more than that, these are people that are telling other people that, the guy Jimmy, he's a songwriter that I like. Check out his stuff. And when they check out my stuff, well, that means that hopefully that goes viral. Not like COVID, but I mean, then, hey, it just keeps going on, and people are able to see that, and people are able to hear that. What I always used to tell people too, some of you were talking about finding other people to sing your songs. Well, that's a good thing, but they got to hear your songs first, and the only way they're going to hear your songs is if you sing them, because inevitably it's never going to happen. And I've always been a little insecure about my voice too, because I've worked with a lot of incredible vocalists. But again, as soon as you work with another vocalist, and that's another person that's going to start pushing, hey, you got to hear what I just recorded because I recorded Jimmy's song with da da da, and just on and on. Kulak's Woodshed was fantastic for that. I've got several songs up on my YouTube page that I did with other vocalists, primarily because as a songwriter, I write from a lot of different points of view, and some of them are from a female point of view, even though obviously I'm not female. But by having a good vocalist that does things from that perspective, it makes it more real. It makes it far more sense to have it done that way. There's a girl named Avi who used to come to well, she came to SongNet a couple times, but she came to the Woodshed quite a bit. And I wrote a song called My Latin Heart, which, of course, I'm, again, not Latino, but she is. And when she did the song, man, everything just took off. And if you look at my SongNet page, my YouTube page, or anything that's going on, you'll see that I have quite a few views of that song because when she sang the song, it worked. It was very convincing. It sounded great. So those are just some of the things that are available to us here. Additionally, one of the things that you've got, as was mentioned, was these online workshops and seminars like with Taxi and ASCAP. If you have those links, if you've been to those links, please post them on the chat so that we have those there as well, because those are important things. Now, Taxi does cost a little bit, but it's well worth it for just about everybody. Originally, I was always telling people that it's far worth it because of the road rally, which is included in your membership with Taxi. The road rally is an opportunity to get together with other songwriters. It's crazy. I mean, it takes over an entire hotel by the airport. I mean, the entire hotel. It's just nuts. And you go to the main ballroom, and there's like 3,000 songwriters in one place. And you look at it and go, well, that's my competition, but also that's my community. So when you realize how big songwriting can be, and that's just one organization, there are so many opportunities available to you, and now they're all available online. So please make sure that you put some of that stuff in the chat. I'm going to try to get some of that stuff in the chat in a minute as well. I just see Rico joined. So Rico, what we're doing is we're just kind of saying who we are, what we do, where we're from, and what we would like to see, what kind of things we need. So Rico, why don't you come on board and unmute yourself and say hello.
Hello, I am Rico. My friends call me Rico. My name's Richard. So I'm a game developer who's a music hobbyist, and I would like to do something with music at some point in my life. And what better time than now, right? So thanks for having me. So I'm here to learn. Thank you.
All right, great. So yeah, again, one of the other things too is that each one of us has a life outside of music. Rico just mentioned he's a game developer. Well, obviously games have music in them. One of my good friends that was a co-worker at Tascam, he quit Tascam because his game thing that he was doing all the music for a couple of games, and he got lucky because he became the primary music supervisor for a little thing called Grand Theft Auto. Yes, so he is the guy, and he's a phenomenal guitar player as well. But when you think about it, Grand Theft Auto has almost, I think maybe 900 million, almost 1 billion copies in one shape or form, of various iterations of that game out there. Almost 1 billion. And you think about it, well, gee, to get a gold record, you only need 500,000 sales. To get a platinum record, you need 1 million sales. And here he's got almost 1 billion sales of his music because of Grand Theft Auto. So obviously he's doing very well. He won't even talk to me anymore. I mean, it's one of those things. But those are the kinds of things that are happening. One of the things that I've been seeing a lot of is people that are posting stuff and creating YouTube channels. Most of you that are here, I think I've mentioned a very famous bass player who had no idea how famous he was. Leland Sklar. So if you look for Leland Sklar, or Lee Sklar, S-K-L-A-R, he started doing a YouTube channel just at the beginning of the pandemic, around March. And if you look at the very first ones that he did, what it was he had just gotten off tour with Phil Collins. And some of the people that saw him on tour with Phil Collins says, "Hey, Lee, how did you play this particular thing?" And he had enough people saying or asking him that question, so he said, "Well, maybe I can post it somewhere." So he thought, well, let me try posting it to YouTube. So he played along with his bass on one of the Phil Collins songs and said, "Okay, this is how it goes, da 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 da. Thank you." Then he woke up the next day and looked to see if his friends that had asked had seen that. He says, "Wait a minute, I thought only 5 or 6 people wanted this. How come I've got 50 views?" And the next morning he had 100 views. And the following morning he had over 1,000 views. What's happening here? What's going on? And now people were commenting, "Thank you for starting a channel." What the heck's a channel? He had no clue that he was actually famous. And all of a sudden, boom, people started finding out more about what's going on with him. And he had no idea what he was doing. He would just post these little snippets of songs, and then he said, well, maybe I'll post snippets of other songs with other artists that I did. And then, like Lindy was talking about, you start getting all these great stories from the road and stories from other people you've worked with. You start putting up those stories. And now he's got, I think, like 30,000 people that are watching him on a regular basis. That's doing pretty good. And this is all just since March. And if you look at his channel, there's nothing fancy about it. He's just doing it either on his phone or from his laptop, and that's it. He actually posted a photo on his Facebook page the other day of his setup. He's got his laptop, he's got his phone holder, and that's it. Oh, and he has a big Bluetooth speaker too, because one of the things that he's been doing, and see, this is another thing, it's crazy. Here's Lee Sklar, one of the most famous bass players in the world, and when he wants to share music, he just takes this big old Bluetooth speaker and puts it near his microphone. I mean, that's about as low tech as you're possibly going to get. It's like grabbing a boombox, hey man, listen to this. You know? So you really don't need a lot of technology. Again, like I was saying before, you don't need to be afraid of the technology. You don't need to invest in a lot of technology. If you're here at this Zoom meeting, you've already got what it takes to at least get started. There's this one artist in Canada who's running a Linux system. Now, Linux is one of those things that doesn't really work quite the same as Windows or anything else. I think Wes tried to go through some tech stuff with her, and it was horrible. And she's not the only one. You know, there's other things that have come up with other people that have been online with us. I think it was the Chromebook, wasn't it, Wes? Chromebooks. Chromebooks are
Yeah,
a problem.
Chromebooks and Linux. Those are the bane of my existence right now.
Yeah, because those two systems don't work well with, they don't play well with others, essentially. And as a result, people don't sound really great on those, unfortunately. But they still do have a sound of some kind, and they're still able to get some kind of a picture out there so people can see what they look like and, you know, what they're doing. Now, that's another issue, too. You know, like, yeah, sometimes you get people that don't look like what you would expect. You know, last night we had a artist on our open mic that was fantastic. You know, she's a much older woman, but when she sings, she doesn't sound older at all. She was a great vocalist, and everybody was just like, wow. You know, if you close your eyes, it was phenomenal just hearing what she did. And she was so thrilled to be able to be there, even with limited technology. You could hear that, just her voice and everything else. And hopefully she'll be able to join the community, find out more about some of the limited technology that she needs to get things sounding really good and make things happen. I think Catherine is another one. You know, Catherine here is a phenomenal writer and a great vocalist. And you know, she was having some problems with some stuff, and she invested in a very simple system, just one microphone that plugs directly in, and that made a big difference, right? Right, Catherine? Yeah, it made a big difference in what's going on with her rig. So you don't really need to invest a lot of money. It's just a matter of understanding what you're doing and finding the right people that will help you with those things as you go along. You know, usually when I'm doing these sorts of things, I don't wear headphones because I can have a live speaker up and it's fine, but because this is going to be a town hall meeting and I want to hear from you guys as well, I'm going to have the headphones on, because one of the big problems is that when you have a live speaker with a live mic, it's going to feed back and it's going to echo all over the place. So for some of you, if you start hearing those echoes and stuff, check yourself. And if you're not speaking, please hit that mute button so that you don't start making that crazy echo go around with everybody else. Thank you. So those are just some of the little things that we found here. Again, being real and understanding the technology that you do have and contacting those around you to improve that a little bit if you can. That makes a huge difference. And the other thing that's very, very important is consistency. Now, Gus has been finding out that if you're not real consistent with your open mic, not a whole lot of people show up, right, Gus?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But when you are consistent, then it becomes something that people continue to look for, and you start getting regulars. The one that I do in New York, even though it's a crazy hour for us here in LA, the fact is that people from LA are showing up. And the reason why is because we can plan for it. We know that the setup time and login time is at 4 o'clock our time to be 7 o'clock in New York. So we work at it. We try to space ourselves out so we can get there somewhere between 4 and 4:30 to sign in and make sure we have a spot on that lineup. And then 5 o'clock is downbeat and we go. And of course, for us here in LA, what's really cool is when it ends at 10 o'clock their time, hey man, it's only 7 o'clock here, right? So that's a cool thing. So we appreciate you guys on the East Coast right now that are staying up extra late because it's almost 11 o'clock there now. And, in fact, I kind of want to hear from you guys first because it is getting kind of late. I know that the technology is such. So what I was wondering is how you guys want to integrate what we're doing here on the West Coast and the East Coast, and any ideas you might have with things like pitch nights and stuff, because we are going to be having our first pitch night on February 3rd. Again, for those that joined late, make sure you write that down. February 3rd, we'll be back here with the SongNet information. So anybody from the East Coast, go ahead and just chime right in.
So I think the idea of like the whole idea of the pitch night is really cool. For me, what I think would be cool about it is if like you get someone that comes in and says, all right, play me a song of yours that gives you this kind of feeling or whatever. Like not necessarily say, oh, play me your best song, but like play me a song that gives you this feeling. Not necessarily like the song you think that is going to get the most likes or the most plays, but maybe one that makes you feel a certain way. And I think that is a really cool. That's kind of what got me excited about it, is like the idea of that.
Yeah, that's kind of how it works here, actually. When we have our guest speakers live, what we'll do is we'll have everybody bring something on CD or more recently on a stick so that we can pop a flash drive into a computer and listen to stuff. One of the problems with being, especially on Zoom, is that in order to do that, it seems that we have to share a screen or something like that. Is that right, Wes? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and sharing screen is something that becomes a little bit difficult. And unfortunately, as we found out very recently, like a couple days ago, if you share a screen and you can't turn it off, then it becomes a problem. What we did was we we let one of the artists do a track, and so we switched her to host because we couldn't switch her to co-host, and she walked away. And so that screwed everybody up because it locked everybody else out, and it just kept playing her stuff over and over and over and over and over and over and over. So we finally had to just everybody exit the meeting and start the meeting again without her in a different place. We still don't know if she ever came back to the meeting or figured out what was going on. But that's the thing. If we do have that share screen thing going on and we switch somebody to a host or a co-host, they got to make sure that they're still there to switch back, or that they're not so rude that they're just going to keep it going like that. So those are some of the things that we have to overcome, some of the hurdles that we've got. One of the things
Jimmy, the other thing is to have people send their songs in ahead of time.
That was the other thing that I was going to say. We're considering doing that. because that is something that may be possible. Then that way Steve could line them up over on his side, being that he's our tech and host, kind of. So when we do have these events and we know who's going to be there, that we can line them up according to that and have them in the queue so that when you come to these events, you can talk to our guest speaker, and then if there's anything that needs to be listened to, then Steve can pop it right up really quick. So, but there's still yet another drawback to all this, and that is also with the open mics, that we are at the mercy of the internet. There are many times where I've been to a different open mic here and there, and bandwidth has become an issue. So it sounds fantastic during a sound check, and it sounds great at that time, and then when it's your turn to play, all of a sudden everything starts shutting down, and you start thinking like, and it's all screwed up. So that can be a problem too. Don't let it get you down, but just be aware that that kind of thing happens, unfortunately. Other things like right now, here I'm talking, and then somebody else drops a fork or something, and their mic is on. Well, then all of a sudden, out because so say you don't hear what's going on because things get interrupted. So there are issues with being online. There are issues with things like this, and at this point in time, it's something that we have to just deal with. We have to live with it because the technology isn't perfect yet. It's going to get better. As it is right now, we know that some people can't get online and jam with other people, although we really want to. Hopefully we'll be able to do some of that. Donna Lynn also mentioned here on the chat here that they're having issues with even AC. There's one artist that's a real good friend of mine that's on the circuit quite a bit, and every time that he plays, he's got to go over and turn off his air conditioner because it makes too much noise. And you get used to things like that. You don't realize how much noise is actually in your room or in your house. I was working on a podcast the other day for somebody, and I was doing it at my mom's place, and my mom lives right next to the freeway. And I'm used to it. I had no idea how bad it was, but when I listened, I said, "What the heck is that noise?" And it dawned on me, oh, that's the freeway. And I had no idea that the freeway was going to be making that much noise in the speakers and everything else. So those are things to be aware of.
But Jimmy?
Yeah.
Can I ask what a pitch night is as opposed to just like a song critique night? Or
sure.
What exactly is a pitch night?
Pitch nights are quite often where somebody comes in, like in this case, Joanne Ledesma, and they're actively looking for music of some kind. Now, Joanne is interesting because she's gone from being a music supervisor to a music placement specialist. What that is somebody that has all kinds of music and all kinds of different genres. The Taxi was mentioned recently here. Now, Taxi used to be, and still is pretty much, what they call themselves is the independent A&R company. So they take music and they figure out where it's going to go and how to place it in different places. Right. And what Joanne was doing was she was actually working at Taxi for a while, and she was one of only 4 people that was qualified to do multiple genres. In other words, she could listen to country, she could listen to hip hop, she could listen to heavy metal, all kinds of different music, and she'd understand the genre enough to find those placements and be successful at getting those placements happening. So she also did that for United Airlines. She did that with a company called 5 Alarm. So she's been around. She's done a lot of different things, with getting music placed. And she has her own library now. And she also bought a library. So now she's got one of the largest libraries in the world of music. And it just keeps growing and growing. And she's always looking for new music. And she's got a few success stories with us. One of the biggest success stories was one artist who got 4 songs, I think 3 or 4 songs, placed in a major motion picture with Lindsay Lohan. And because of that one placement and because of the residuals that still come in from that movie, I think it's called Freaky Friday, she was able to generate enough money to live her dream and move to the UK, and where she is right now. And one of the things about being the American artist in the UK, hey, that's enough for people to check her out just because she's an American and she's not, like a local person from the UK. One of the artists that I produced, I found that was also true. He went to the UK as the American blues artist. And said, wow, authentic blues, because it comes from the United States. You know, it's not a British blues player, although Clapton, well, you know, he's okay, but, you know, he's not an American blues artist. So that was a huge way to get in and get involved in. He was very successful. So there are things that, you know, we do here that can make things happen. And like Pat was talking about, you know, generating enough revenue to pay for our bad habit, right? And that's what it's about. It's much more than that, because the idea is to have fun, but more than have fun, to be able to express ourselves from a deeper place and a different place. A thing that you know, normal people can't do, but we are unique as songwriters, as creative people, and we do have this outlet that we can use. So we want to make sure that it is available to make those things happen. So yeah, the pitch night is actually something that you're putting something out there so that someone will hopefully be able to use it. Now, saying that, Lindy, since you sent me some stuff recently, pitch nights, generally you want to have something that is radio ready, is what they used to call it, or broadcast ready. What that means is that it's got to sound really, really, really good. In other words, if you think of a song that sounds like your song that was or still is on hit radio, then if your song is not better sounding, not as good sounding, but better sounding than what you have heard on hit radio or online or anything else, odds are it will not even get listened to past the first 5 bars. And that's the truth.
Wow.
Yeah. However, you don't want to be discouraged by that, because someone like Joanne will tell you that and say, well, you know, this is really rough, but if you find so-and-so person to help you produce this, or get a vocalist that sounds like this and that person, then when you bring it back to me, we may be able to get a placement. And you do those things, odds are very good that she may be able to get you done with that. So you never know, you know. And in fact, what can happen is if you find that right vocalist, and that vocalist is not a writer, but is looking to, you know, get their voice somewhere as a performing artist, then your song may be the song that puts them over the top. Again, with that song My Latin Heart that I did with Avi, that had that kind of potential, because we had so many people that were saying, dude, you got to release that as a single, and other artists that wanted to cover the song because they heard her sing it. You know, they couldn't care less when I was singing it, because I'm not Latino, but as soon as they heard her sing it, oh my gosh, man, people were just freaking out over it. So, you know, that can happen. You just got to be aware that pitch nights are something a little bit different, because they're looking for other things. We do have producers that I've got coming up here. Let's see here. I don't have it handy. But during the global open mic that we just did, we had Jeffrey Weber pop in for a little bit. And Jeffrey Weber, if you look at his resume, he's, you know, quite a producer. He was also at SongNet a year ago, and one of our more popular speakers. Even though when he came once, everybody wanted his number. Everybody wanted to talk to him because he was entertaining and he knew what he was talking about. So Jeffrey Weber's also on deck, hopefully, for March. And if we don't have Jeffrey for March, then we've also got Ben McLean, who's LA's #1 music attorney. I think he still is, I'm not really sure. But either way, he was LA's #1 music attorney, if not still. And there's a magazine that comes out of the Los Angeles area that is now also global, called Music Connection. So if you're interested, you can look for that online, Music Connection magazine online. And Music Connection magazine is very cool because of 2 things. One is that it's got a great reference at the back of every issue, physical issue, that has a listing of all kinds of stuff, like all of the publishers that, you know, in the United States, or all of the recording studios in the United States. You know, listings like that, you can't beat that. That's really good stuff. all the attorneys in the United States, music attorneys. And also the magazine has great stuff like signing stories and people that have gotten signed to a label, which may not be the best thing, but for some people that can be a good thing if they know how to parlay that. Ben McLean, who has been our guest speaker for several years now, many years actually, as a music attorney, you'll find him in almost every issue of that magazine getting somebody a deal. And he will also tell you that sometimes getting that deal is a kiss of death, because if you get that deal and you screw it up, or it's a bad deal and you have to step out of it, well, then what happens is everybody else perceives it as failure. So when you try pitching to other labels, they're going, well, wait a minute, how come you were at this label and you're not anymore? Well, it may not be your fault, but nonetheless, you're no longer signed to a label. Why? And that becomes an issue too. So Ben will talk about that when he is our guest speaker. I'm sure Jeffrey will tell you all about that. He actually wrote a book called You Sound Amazing, which is all the lies that they will tell you in this music industry. Some of you may know that I've been producing for quite some time, and I just released an artist with my label who's been at a lot of our showcases. Diana Green, who just celebrated her, I think, 83rd birthday in September. A lot of artists, don't have careers past the age of like 25. And very few artists have their first record happening after they've turned 80. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But we're in a new market, we're in a new place, and this is a whole new reality that we're living in. And that's why I decided, along with my producing partner, to take that chance, because she's a phenomenal artist. She's got some great stories, and that's one of the biggest things about the new music industry that we've got going on here. As I mentioned, Lee Sklar, he didn't know that he was famous, and he became even more famous, not necessarily because of the music, but because he's a real person. And that's part of this whole thing, is that when you go out there online and you're a real person, people pay attention. I remember when I first got onto the internet, there were these, not the porn ones, but the regular ones, webcam girls or webcam people. In fact, one of the things that was a hugely popular thing online was a stupid fishbowl. The virtual fishbowl. The dude had a camera sitting on an aquarium, and you go to his website, and that's all you saw was his fish tank. And you sit there and you're watching a virtual fish tank. Or you would have that virtual fish tank on your computer because you didn't want whatever graphic kind of thing was showing up. Nowadays, of course, you can post that yourself, but then it's not real. So if a fish dies, you don't see that happening in real time on the screen. But still, there are things like that. You'll see that even today. One of my friends showed me, there's one of New York City. There's a bridge in New York City that has a camera going on 24 hours a day. And you can sit there and watch that bridge and see people going in and out of New York City all day long. And people watch that all day long. Why? Who knows, Millions of viewers, millions of people seeing that, because it's real life. And people get to be kind of voyeuristic. So if you put something up there that is real and you're consistent about it, you will get people watching. That's a promise, that's a guarantee, and that's something that's been very well proven. Even for myself, I wanted to see whether or not that was right. So I am going to start doing that on my YouTube channel, but I started out on my Facebook channel. For those of you who haven't been keeping track, what I did was, I'm also a guitar tech. I used to be a luthier. I call myself more of a tech now because I don't have time to really build. But all the guitars that come through my shop have stories. I'm sure all the instruments you have stories. So when I post those stories every Saturday, people are actually looking for that. And I know they're looking for it because when I posted on a Saturday, before it was like, every now and then randomly I'd get a few people looking at the new posting. Now that I'm doing this, excuse me, a little hangnail here, every Saturday, I know that because when I post it on usually Friday at midnight, some people actually see it right then. When I wake up in the morning and I look again, there's about 10 or 15 people that have seen it. And when I look at the analytics, an hour later, more people have seen it. So that means that people are looking for it. They're not finding it randomly, because if they were just finding it randomly, the numbers wouldn't be jumping drastically in the beginning of the day like that. So you see, just like with our music, when you're coming from a real place, it means a lot. Okay. Yes, we also have Chris Cargill as another music attorney friend of ours. I've asked her to come to SongNet many times, and she's always really busy. And so that's why Ben McLean has been our go-to guy. But hopefully we'll have her. We have other music attorney friends as well. I think Dave also knows Burgundy Morgan. She's another person that is a music industry attorney. So we'll see what happens. You know, as time goes on, we have connections to a lot of people in this industry, and it's exciting to be able to do this now because we can also bring in some of our Nashville people. I've got a lot of friends in Nashville. One of our regular guest speakers, Travis Allen, he used to come as a producer to SongNet at least once a year, and he moved to Nashville. But I thought I'd never see him again. Well, now that we're going to be doing stuff online as well, we're going to be seeing him for sure. So, what else you guys need? Let us know. Let's go ahead and talk. Say something. Yeah.
Jimmy. Hey, I just want to say thanks for talking about open mics so much. I mean, they really are, you know, be it these days or be it the previous days or be it the future days, they're so important, you know, and so it's just, you mentioned them so many times, and all the cats in the room here who do the different open mics, Justin and then the Liz Victory stuff. It's just so important to have those as well too. So just want to put that out there.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, Alexandra.
I have a question about that comment in particular. I haven't done any online music anything yet, really. I have a balcony and I've played some songs from there, but that's been the extent of my music performance in this new world. So I know you said we don't need a lot of equipment. Right now I'm on an iPad. Is that enough, or do I need to like get my USB mic? That's my other option that may or may not work, and put that into my computer? Or can I just play an open mic with my iPad built in?
You can play an open mic with the iPad. Wes, why don't you talk about that a little bit, since you're more of the tech guy for open mics and stuff.
I already had my mic open. So yeah, iPads, iPhones, they tend to have really good mics on them. Also, even some laptops, Macs tend to also have better microphones on them. They're good for a regular open room sound, and depending on the device that you're using, like the mobile devices like the iPad and the iPhone, and even some Android phones, they auto level, but for most type of just like acoustic playing, they pick up good enough that the music comes across. The setup is usually a lot easier, but if you want to next level it, then you can actually, after playing a few times, get used to it, and then maybe hearing the sound differences from other people when they're playing using an interface. You don't have to come out of the gate with everything, like a full light setup in your basement, multiple cameras. Like, I don't know, I've seen some crazy people do stuff like that. But yeah, no, I mean, just playing right now, where you are right now with what you have, is probably going to be good enough to get across what you're doing. There are little tweaks in Zoom that we ask people to do, and that helps the sound come across better. But yeah, no, you should be good.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I have a question for Richard. From because you're in the gaming area, the meetings I've been to, instead of giving like trailing royalties and master sync fees and such, the gaming people seem to want to give you a blanket rate and that's it, like $1,500 or something. So it's not like, even though you've got a billion games out there, you're really getting any kind of royalty off that. Would you agree that that's kind of the deal structure in that segment of the industry?
I think it depends on your level of renown. That
Gotcha.
kind
Yeah.
of what you can, what kind of deal you can strike with the publisher, with the studio. So that's a big part of it. You know, if you're someone like, also with voice acting, it's kind of the same thing. Like one of the games I worked on, we had Christopher Walken, and he famously made about $100,000 in 4 hours doing a couple of lines.
Wow.
And we didn't even use his face. It was just so ridiculous. Like the game came out and people were like, "Ah, that guy's funny. He sounds like Christopher Walken." And it was this big fat cop guy, and nobody knew it was him. It's a total waste of money. And so, but he got paid a ton because his name, he got renowned. So unfortunately, that's the reality for many talent, musical talent is flat rate.
But in general, do they work on a flat rate as opposed to trailing royalties for every time you hear the song?
Uh, Different games have different deal structures, but the games I've worked on, we usually have an in-house composer who works on
Okay, right.
and I don't think they get any royalty
Can
money.
barely hear you. Yeah.
I don't think they get royalty money from sales. It's
Right. That was my impression as well.
but, often sometimes they'll license something, so that'll be kind of different.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you got some background noise there, Steve. Because, yeah, now this noise is gone. But that's what was canceling out
Oh,
Richard
really?
when he was,
Oh, that's
yeah.
interesting because there's like nothing going on here. Okay.
Yeah,
Good to
but
know.
it sounds like a heater or some kind of other HVAC going on there.
Oh, that's probably me. Do you hear it now?
No? No, it was on Steven's side because as soon as he muted, it went away.
Oh,
Yeah. See,
am I
that,
echoing? Sorry, am I
no,
double?
you're
Good?
not echoing. It sounds
Okay.
sounds good on my end.
All right, cool.
But that is one thing, again, on Zoom, everybody needs to pay attention that when they're not speaking, make sure that you're muted. Otherwise, stuff gets through. And like I was saying, if somebody drops a fork or something while someone else is speaking and they're not muted, then it cuts it out. So that's a very important thing here. Well, thank you for that. Appreciate that information there, Richard. And another thing too is, one of the things I always tell people when they're doing placement for film and TV, don't wait for the movie, because the reality again is that everybody has access. I went to a thing here again, being in LA. The American Film Institute is not too far away, and they also had events just like we do for our songwriters. Well, I went up to one of their events one day. Everybody there's a filmmaker, of course. So as soon as I said, I'm a songwriter, I was the rock star in the room, literally. I mean, it was crazy. Everybody wanted to talk to me because everybody needed music for their film. And it was completely overwhelming. I had like 7 or 8 offers to meet with people after that event and check out what they were doing with their films and stuff. One of them I actually did do something for, but the other 5 or 6, man, their films were like, I couldn't quite figure out what they wanted. They didn't know what they wanted. And I was thinking, this is just like the rest of this music industry, man. Nobody knows what they want, but when it happens, then all of a sudden there's success going on. So
That's why they have music supervisors.
exactly. Yeah. You know what I think it is, Steve? I think your computer fan may be kicking in somewhere. It's close enough to your microphone. I don't know. But anyway, it's not just AFI, but also film schools and independent filmmakers. There's these couple of kids that are running around near me that have skateboards, and they're doing all these crazy skate tricks because there's a bank right across the street, and the bank is crazy. I mean, they've got this really cool wall that's just high enough to get some big jumps on, And there's also a driveway that comes off near that wall, so they could hit the driveway, hit the wall, come off it, do like a 180 or a 360, and then come down and flip the board, and it's really cool. So, you know, obviously these kids want to do all these skate tricks, but I've seen their videos, they don't have any music on it. So I said, hey man, how about if I put like some kind of a metal thing behind that? Yeah? It's all of a sudden, wow. And of course, when I do that, then all of a sudden their skate videos get a whole lot more views because now it sounds like something really cool as well as looking like something really cool. So those opportunities are there. Again, you just have to look for them and know what's going on. Everybody's got some skate kids in their neighborhood. Everybody's got some kind of a person that'll do a video. And if they're not doing the video, why not do it yourself? Again, when you're honest, you can see things. There's another video or another YouTuber that I've been watching, and she actually has a really good thing also on her Facebook page. It's called Emmy Made. Emmy Made is just some girl, and she's cooking. Simple cooking show, except it's like stupid cooking. Like sometimes it's stuff that doesn't even make sense cooking, but she does that, and because people want to know what is going on, and she's not that bad looking, then of course people do that. Now, if you were Emmy Made and you wanted to add a little music to it, well, of course, who would you look for? Well, you'd look for somebody that makes music that sounds like what you're doing. Or if you were the one that watched her stuff and said, hey, I'd like to put some music on there, you combine, and she's already got like 1 million viewers, so hey, all of a sudden you've got 1 million people that are watching your music. So if you don't wait for the movie, don't wait for the placement, be a little more proactive. There's a bunch of great opportunities out there, and I know that all of us can get that. Jason's another guy. I love what Jason does. He does puppets, and we were just talking before we started that puppeteering seemed to be like an old art or a new art, but it's really a current art, because in Second Life, everybody's doing avatars and stuff, and even now, I've got a fake background behind me. This is a virtual background. I can change it if I want. But there are things that aren't quite real, just like puppets. Puppets are real, but they're not. And puppeteering is something else. Yes, he could easily create. In fact, I'm sure he does. In fact, I've seen him do things on open mic where he's got puppets going on while he sings his songs, and that's very, very entertaining. Yeah, there he goes. There you go. Right, the bird.
Actually, if I could butt in here really quickly, could I just butt in here really quickly?
Sure, go ahead.
I'd be remiss if I did not mention that the puppets are made by my wife, Mother Pigeon from New York City. She makes all the visuals and puppets. Now back to Jimi Yamagishi.
Thank you, Jason. But you
Jimmy,
see,
okay, when you're done, I just want to jump in on.
Sure, jump in.
Oh, okay. I'm curious from all of you, in terms of song placements, trying to place a song in film or TV. The two, well, there's several ways to do that, but the two online vehicles I've used most often are either Broadjam or .com or Taxi.com. Let me point out the difference. Taxi.com, the fee is about, I think, $300 a year now. And you send your song in to various listings that they post, and they have a group of people who screen the songs. So the problem with that is that it's not that easy to get a song, quote unquote, forwarded to the actual client. And they screen out a lot of stuff. Broadjam.com, by contrast, everything goes to the client. You have no screening of it at all. And Broadjam is about $225 a year, something like that. Sometimes they have a deal where you can get 2 years for one. And so Taxi has some very good listings. Broadjam has some good ones. I've had a few placements through Broadjam. I'm curious about anybody else's experience with online placements. There was one called hitlicense.com that seems to have like crashed and burned a couple months back, which was one I was trying to use, but again, it just disappeared one day. Curious about anybody who's had success with song placements via websites, as opposed to meeting a music supervisor in person. Any comments would be of interest.
Well, actually, I wanted to mention something too, Steve. Because I used to go up to Taxi every now and then to say hello to Michael and the people, and also because some of our guest speakers were working at Taxi. And what was really interesting was that every now and then I would see famous artists in those cubicles, because when it says when a pitch thing says, should sound like such and such for a vocalist that sounds like such and such. Well, guess what? It is that vocalist. Like Katy Perry was, up there recently. So it's kind of funny, when it says a la somebody, it actually could be that artist, and they don't have the screeners like they used to. They still have some screening going on, but the reality is that quite often, just like with Broad Jam, there are no screeners. It's going directly to those right people, because they also mentioned that, sometimes stuff that they should have used or would have used maybe for a different placement within the same context got skipped over because they got screened out by the screeners. So it's a real thing now. Both places are good. Again, yes, it's true that you still may not get through, and quite often it's for some of the other silly reasons that we hear about all the time when we have our seminars and workshops. Like Joanne has mentioned before, where you've got a great song and it would work great for this scene, except the scene is set in Baltimore and you talk about Pittsburgh. So sorry, your song's not going to go. And you don't have time to re-record it because they needed that song yesterday. And that's the way that it works in this industry, unfortunately. I actually had one, I think it was somebody wanted the name Sherry in a song in particular. And, I said, well, I don't have any songs named Sherry. It's, well, then don't even bother to pitch. So, whoa. So those are the things that are very specific when it comes to film and TV. So again, if you're the one that's in control, or you're the one that's working with the filmmaker directly, then if you're working with them and they say they need a particular piece of music, you can write it for them, or you can pull it out of your own catalog. That's a real big important thing to know about Taxi especially, or any of these places really, is that if you don't have a really extensive catalog, it may not be the best thing to go for yet, because every time in the entertainment industry, when they need a particular song, they need it yesterday. They're not going to wait for you to re-record it better, and they're not going to wait for you to change a lyric. No, because there are thousands of other submissions for that particular spot, and they will find one song that works for exactly the way they intended it. So if yours isn't the one, oh well, you just got to keep moving forward. So anyway, that's our experience here.
Yeah, another comment I've heard is in most movies, something like 80% or 70 or 80% of the music actually is from the person who's writing the score for that music, as opposed to individual songs, which they use as what they call source music. Like if you walk into a bar and there's music in the background in the movie, that music in the background is called source music. So again, only maybe 20%, maybe 30% of the songs in a movie might be quote unquote source music. The rest of it is contracted composers usually, just as an FYI. And obviously it's different with every movie, with every TV show, but if you really listen to most music in film and TV, it's pretty much composer-written classical background music. So the number of placements, actually one of the people from, was it Columbia Records one time I was talking to, I think, or maybe it was, I think it was Columbia a while back. But she told me that every day in the music industry, or in the film industry, they use about 144,000 cues. A cue being when the music starts playing. So that's 144,000 cues per day. That's a big market. So there's a lot of room there. It's just a matter of target marketing your song to fit that scene. And of course, it's very, very subjective. Any one scene, 20 songs could work. So you just don't know. You got to just get it out there and just keep your fingers crossed.
Jimmy, for the Joanne pitch night on February 3rd, right? How do how I know someone already asked how does it work, or whatever, but how do you how do you submit some, or like do you do a song? I mean, how does it usually roll?
Usually people come and they bring a song on, a recording, a complete recording ready to roll on either a flash drive or a CD. And because we're online, what we're going to do is we're going to post what she needs on our website. And also, if you have something to submit, we'll ask you to, I guess, send it to Showcase. Steve, is that right? You want to do that? You're still muted, Steve. Steve, you're still muted. Steve, you're muted!
Yes, like a 128, BPS MP3. Don't send a WAV file, But that would be the right thing to do. It's probably what we're going to wind up having to do. It would be my guess.
Okay, so then, we'll have everybody submit their stuff to showcase at songnet.info. We'll mention who our guest speaker is ahead of time, and if they have any preferences for anything, or you have any questions about a particular thing for that submission or for that listen, then you can put those notes in there along with your submission, and that way we know what's going on. That way, I think we'll be able to get some decent sound quality and some control over everything that's going on here, which is very important, because it gets pretty crazy, Okay, what are the questions you guys got?
Jimmy, I got a question regarding these submissions for film and TV. I mean, are they only considering songs that have stems, or would they consider a song that's just mixed down to, 2 stereo tracks and they can't change anything?
Right now, I think what we want to hear or they want to see is the complete song. And if you have stems available, then they will ask about that later on. Generally speaking, most people will have stems even after a mix, or have stems available through whoever produced it. So that's not a big issue.
Well,
if
it
I
is
could
for
comment on
me.
that, yeah.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
would they
I would have
consider? Oh, go ahead, Stephen.
I would have, my experience listening to these guys over the years is that 99% of the time, they just want the song, period. They don't care about stems. However, especially it was a taxi meeting, there's a guy there who runs the Oprah show, Oprah Winfrey, and he's a big stem guy. He always wants stems for everything he does. Now, I don't know if you work with your producer on stems, but if I go to Travis, who records my songs, and I say, Travis, send me the stems, okay, that's $50 or something. So in other words, that's like every track on your recording. And they may ask you to drop out this or that instrument or whatever, or et cetera, et cetera. So it's not a trivial thing when somebody's asking for stems, because for you to get the stems from your producer, or if you're the producer, obviously you would have them, it's going to cost you money. And so it's the exception rather than the rule from what I've seen. Jimmy, have you heard anything contrary to that?
No, that's absolutely correct. And in fact, you really need the 2 mixes. You probably already know that you want that -1 track that has no vocals on it, because that might be something that they'll need more than one that has the words. Again, like I was just saying, you might have a song about Brooklyn or something, but they really need it to be about Baltimore. Well, that's going to change, and so if they love the song but they don't love the content, or they need to duck the content, then they need that one that has no vocal on it. And generally speaking, if you've been in this industry for a while, you know that you always want to do that separate mix like that too. So pretty much it.
Right, because sometimes, let's say an ad, by the way, ads pay the best. An ad you see on TV pays much better than any film or TV placement you're ever going to get, unless you're like the Rolling Stones or something. But on an ad for TV, they may just want a few lines from the chorus and that's it. And then cut everything else out on the vocal and just have that background music. And the same with a scene, in a movie, they may just want a certain line that fits that scene when somebody's walking in the door or somebody's kissing or whatever. And it's the perfect thing to say at that moment, but the rest of it they want to mute in terms of the vocal. So that's very common.
I have a question.
Sure.
So one of the things I've come across in my experience is, or my understanding is, like, if someone wants to use my song and I need to sign something in regards to that song, how do the permissions for that work in regards to who's played on that song, who's written the song? I've heard things where, like, if somebody plays a small part on it, then you have to get every person that's played on that song's permission before that song can be licensed.
Unfortunately, that is kind of true these days. So if you are recording anything with a band, you want to try to get some kind of a blanket agreement with the band that you're the one that's going to be pitching it, you're the one that's going to be responsible for it, and if it does get any kind of placement or generates any revenue, that you're going to be the one that will distribute that. And if anybody in the band has a dispute with that, then they got to talk to you before you even consider pitching it. It's just one of those things that unfortunately is happening, especially with the new Music Modernization Act. Are you guys all familiar with Music Modernization Act? Yes, okay. So for those of you who don't know, with the Music Modernization Act, what it is everybody who is on a particular thing now gets a piece of the pie. So it gets pretty insane. Your master use licensing used to be just to the writer, and now it's the writer, the producer, and anybody else that might have played on that track, if you can find them and all that. So things are definitely changing in the industry. The reason why is because, like Lee Sklar, who I mentioned before, Lee Sklar has been on thousands of hit records. He's got probably his bass sound on more #1 hits than anybody in the industry. Yet he doesn't get any residuals or anything from those things. He gets paid as a sideman, one shot, and that's it. So if he did a budget deal with somebody and all of a sudden that became a multi-platinum record, he just got that one thing for being the sideman, and he doesn't get any piece of what comes up after that. So the Music Modernization Act changed that because it can change that. All that stuff can be tracked very easily, but then that means more work for the people that are doing the licensing, more work for the people that are doing the submitting, because if they don't have all those numbers and they don't have all those people available, it can be a real headache.
The other thing is, like the way I do songs is I use people who are producers who can play all the instruments, literally. I just do the vocals and I write the songs. That's what I do. When I go to a producer, I pay them. It costs me $800 to $1,000 a song, usually, maybe sometimes occasionally more than that. And then I have an agreement with them that's what's called a work for hire legally. That means I have paid them up front to produce that song. Therefore, they do not get residuals or anything like that. Now, if you go to a producer and you're collaborating with them and you're not paying them, then essentially they will get they could ask for, they should ask for part of your writer's portion. There's, of course, the writer's portion and the publisher's portion. The writer's portion is usually yourself and a co-writer, but if you're not paying a producer, then the producer often, well, probably now with the Music Modernization Act, should get part of your writer's share. So, but classically, if you pay somebody up front, think of it this way. The songwriters in the music business are the entrepreneurs. We're the ones who are taking the risk. If you've got to pay somebody to do a vocal on your song or to do, production, you're paying them up front. When you're done, you've made no money, but you've paid them. They've made money. You haven't. So you're the one taking the risk. and you may get nothing for that song over 10 or 20 years, but they've been paid. So it's all about risk. I mean, if they're willing to share the risk and not get paid, sure, you should split some with them. But if you're going to hire them up front and say this is a work for hire, you will have to expect to pay them.
Yeah, there are really good contracts and stuff available online. I think both Chris Cargill and Ben McLean have those forms available, in fact, online if you go to that. Or you can just Google online for work for hire music contracts, I think it was, and you'll find several different versions of the same thing. And those are things that you'll be working with if you're working with somebody that is going to be paid, or somebody that's in your band and you're trying to negotiate something like that. So that's how that works.
Yeah, I have a free one that I downloaded. It's a performance release, basically. And the whole point is basically, hey, I paid you, you'll get your credit or whatever, but I basically have the say of what happens with this song. Just I guess since we're here, I have a pretty good understanding of it, but do you want to talk about like how writing credits get split up in terms of like how the writer gets how lyrics and music are separated?
Can be, but again, everything is negotiable in this business. I've been in situations. I think there's a saying in Nashville: "Write a word, get a third," and that's absolutely true. There's been situations where I've written a song, and there's somebody else in the room that has tried to contribute, but everything that they contributed sucked really bad, so we didn't use anything that they contributed to the song. Yet, because they were in the room and because they tried to contribute, even though it didn't wind up on the finished material that we did, we still have to credit them for that because they were in the room. And in a way, it was kind of a filter. We said, hey, you suck. And they understood that, but it's okay, they were still there. So we knew what sucked and why it didn't work, and that helped make the song better in a way, kind of. So.
Yeah, usually you agree to that up front.
Right.
That's the most important thing. In other words, there's what they call this Nashville philosophy. So what they do in Nashville, you've probably heard this, is that they say, okay, you two guys are going to write together. We'll stick you in a room. One guy might do 90% of the work. The other guy may do 10%. But up front, you've already agreed. You're going to split it no matter what happens. And so that's really what you have to agree with your co-writer. You say, okay, up front, here's the way we're going to do it. And think of it as Steve Jobs. Okay, did Steve Jobs ever write any code? No. But he's the guy who said no. He's the guy who said, it ain't ready. He's the guy who said, it's not intuitive enough. He's the guy who said, this sucks. And that guy, when you think about it, is actually very important, even though he didn't write a line of code for anything. So that kind of person, when you're co-writing, maybe you know a person like that. Maybe you don't. Maybe your co-writing is extremely equal between two people. But the important thing is to agree up front. Okay, we're both going to try to write this song. We don't know how it's going to turn out. We don't know who's really going to wind up writing the melody or the chord structure, but we're just going to agree up front, this is what we're going to do. And the advantage of having more than one person is that you do have that person that says, it ain't ready yet. There's a classic case of this. If you ever get a chance to watch the movie, the making of Toy Story, I think it's 2 or 3. There's actually a movie about their creative process. And 2 weeks before they were going to release this movie, and a movie is a very, very complex thing to do, John Lasseter just said, it's not right. And so literally they got all these people together. They brainstormed why wasn't it working. They fixed it and they had to redo pieces and parts of the production in 2 weeks that they'd been working like 3 or 4 years on. But that's the power of the guy who says no. That's the power of the co-writer who says it sucks. And so, that expertise, that taste is one of those things that's, again, it's extremely subjective for every single person, but sometimes it's extremely valuable. So it's all about agreeing up front.
Yeah, and that's been my experience with band members is like everyone, a lot of times, if they're not as knowledgeable about the industry, they just kind of make that assumption, oh, we share everything equally, regardless of how much work is put into it. And sometimes, it's easy to not think about that, and then later down the line, that can be something that destroys a band. Like, you're getting credit for my work, blah blah blah.
Oh yeah, I mean, look at who wrote the songs in the Rolling Stones? Who wrote the songs in the Beatles? Not everybody. Yeah, it's a classic. Yeah. Anybody else on that complex subject? Because there's you and band members, there's you and co-writers, and then there's you and the producer. And in general, the producers get paid up front overall in the industry. The question is, when do you consider a producer a co-writer? And again, do you agree with that up front? Maybe you get a discount on his production cost because you're considering him a co-writer, etc.
Yeah, I know that on some of the projects that I've done, people have come to me with songs that were less than great, and I've said, we need to turn this around. Like, for example, this one artist came in and none of their songs had any kind of rhyme scheme or rhyme structure. And I said, the reason why it sounds like bad junior high poetry is because it is. So what you need to do is, if you want to make it into a song that people will remember, there's a thing called a rhyme scheme. And they said, I don't want to make it sing-songy. So we kind of had to prove it by taking them to open mic. So we had them, or I had them take the song, sing it at an open mic the way they had it, and then come back again the next week and sing it the way that I had rewritten it with a rhyme scheme of some kind. And sure enough, everybody loved it with the rhyme scheme, and they were able to sing it back, but nobody even thought it was the same song that he had sung previously. So it was a big, big difference, and it taught him a big lesson, and of course now he's a much better writer because of that. Those are the kinds of things that we learn in some of these workshops and seminars. And we will have some hit songwriters that will come through eventually as well, that will talk about those things. But that's one of the more basic things that you hear about. Another one is groove. We've all talked about groove for a while in some of these. And at Taxi, there's always some really great groove people that you can learn a lot of good stuff from. And those are also some of my friends, so we're going to be having some of those seminars and workshops as well. So it's exciting. We have all this knowledge to share, and we want to share it with you. So what else is going on out there?
Got another story along that line. This is quick. There was somebody earlier mentioned the Durango songwriter workshop that usually happens around February-ish. And there was a guy there, a songwriter named Chuck Cannon, who's I guess I'd call him a country/Americana type of writer, but he's written some just absolutely brilliant lyrics. He's a real lyric guy. And he did an analysis once of country songs, and something like 80% of #1 songs in country music had what he called a hard rhyme. In other words, glad and sad. That's a hard rhyme. A near rhyme is, something that's kind of similar but not really. But he said the hard rhyme was actually something like 80% of number one hit songs, which I thought was a fascinating statistic. And he had actually done the work to try to get to the bottom of that. And so in his songs, he made a very deliberate attempt to make hard rhymes as opposed to soft rhymes or near rhymes.
Catherine, you were going to say something?
Yeah. On my CD, my producer, who's just fantastic, he did change a couple of my songs, just a couple little notes, but it made them really a lot better. And he said he didn't want credit, but I'm kind of wondering what to do about it. I mean, not that it's going to ever sell millions of copies, but, we kind of came to agreement that he was just for hire. And, but, I kind of wonder, is that the right thing to do? Because the couple little things he did, were really, really good. So I don't know.
Well, what comes up, where this comes up is when you're taking a songwriting class from somebody. I noticed that. I took a class from Harriet Schock, and maybe some of you the rest of you have taken one from Harriet. But, I asked myself kind of, when I'd play a song for her, I said, geez, it's almost like she's co-writing this thing in a way. But yet I've paid for her course. Again, it's kind of like paying the producer again. She never asked for credit, never asked for credit from her students, because that was just the way she worked. And again, that was sort of an assumed upfront thing. But again, it does come up, and it makes you think something. Well, gee, that person just made this off the hand comment. I don't even barely know who they were, or maybe I really know where they were, but I've already made it. There's been no deal made, so that it comes up, I think, in songwriting classes especially.
Yeah, not just songwriting classes, but also workshops and seminars. Some of the open mics that I go to are song circles. And in some of these song circles, we do offer critique. And sometimes during the critique, if somebody comes with something really good, you kind of feel bad, like, well, gee, that was something that's going to change my song and make it so much better. But because it is an open forum like that, we all pretty much have an agreement that, yeah, even though it might be something really special, we're not going to ask credit for that. However, you might want to consider working with them later on to have a deal worked out with them and actually do a co-write with them formally and officially, because if that worked out that good that one time, there's a pretty good chance it's going to work out really good another time, and you want to have them on your side and make that happen for both of you.
That's funny, because actually, when I finished the whole CD, because he had changed a couple of songs, just a couple little notes, I gave him credit for one of the songs that he didn't even write. I just put his name in there just to make up for it. I just thought that was fair.
Yeah, well, that's very nice of you to do that, but you didn't have to do that. But, for myself, when that happens, I usually go back to that person and say, hey, let's write a song together and make that an official thing, that there is an official 50-50 split, and that we can make something go on with that. So.
Okay.
I kind of posed a similar question at a conference once, and their response was basically like even if you're writing with band members, like you might have an agreement, but then as soon as money comes into play, like if you have success, like people could change their tune. I came up with that one note right there, and you guys, and now I'm not getting any, so it's I totally get what you're saying about the feeling of what's right, but it's kind of like what's safe and what protects you. That's kind of that's where the music business side of it comes into. It's just about making sure everyone's safe and has an understanding of what they're going to get and what to expect.
Yeah, and I think what happens is, when I was a teenager, I had a band, and we didn't even think of those things. And yet, like you said, as soon as there's money involved, all of a sudden everything changes. And so that's why it's so important at the beginning of the process to make the agreement up front. And with a band, especially if it's guys you grew up with or something like that, often you don't even you're almost afraid to broach the subject because it's a sensitive subject. But, it sort of has to be done. I guess that's all you can really say.
Yeah,
I
Lindy.
have.
Lindy, you got your mic open.
Yeah, and if I could interject something, that's why I opened it up. I was listening to a taxi songwriter at the road rally, and he was talking about magic notes and how when you're writing, try and find those magic notes. And if someone takes your song and finds that magic note that you hadn't thought of, boom, all of a sudden it's a different song. So one note can be seriously important to a song. Out.
No, that's absolutely true. Yeah, it really depends on your relationship with that person, and it's important to try to keep those relationships together. Nobody wants to lose friends, lose enough to COVID as it is right now. But really, I think that as long as we are aware that we have something in writing, and our friendships don't have to be messed up because of simple things, like, well, hey man, that was my word, just something. In fact, last night it was kind of funny because during the open mic, somebody came up with an interesting word. They said, was it unfuckable? And I heard that word and I thought, well, that's really cool. And then they put it in a context of, well, the blues is unfuckable. And I thought about this as that's a song. And so I wrote the song right there on the spot and performed it. And
That was an awesome song, Jimmy.
Thank you.
There's a great story I heard from Alex Del Zoppo. It's a true story, apparently. And this was, talk about a back in the day story. So he's at a party with Stephen Stills. Okay, now, Alex Del Zoppo was in a band called, what was it, Sweetwater, right, Jimmy? Who was the first band to ever play at Woodstock, the original Woodstock. And he's one of our guys we know here in LA. But anyway, so he's at this party with Stephen Stills and other people. And some guy in the corner who's stoned or something says something like, hey man, if can't be with the one you love the one you're with, And he said, Stephen turned to this guy and said, can I use that? I don't know the end of that story other than obviously it became a hit song, but that's a real story apparently.
Hey, Stephen, I actually know the woman he wrote that song about. It's a friend of mine's, Aunt Harriet, who he was seeing at the time.
Good old Aunt Harriet.
Yep, Aunt Harriet.
Don't you love anecdotal stories?
Well, that's what it's all about. Well, it's just about 9 o'clock. We've been on here for a couple hours. I know some people have already left, and we appreciate you guys all being here. Does anybody else have anything else they want to talk about? Otherwise, we're going to meet again. We have our open mic, right, coming up on the 20th, is it, Steve?
Yes, 2 weeks from tonight.
Okay, so for that one, make sure that you, again, sign up, showcase at songnet.info. So you can get on that list, and we'll make that happen. And for those of you that have questions about getting your stuff together for these things, even recording it. One of the things you can do to record, by the way, is you can actually record stuff onto Zoom. If you have a Zoom account, you can log on to Zoom and kick it into gear and do a quick recording on Zoom, even with this kind of a background. And then when you archive it to your computer, it becomes an MP4, which is totally deliverable in just about any format, anywhere. It's pretty universal. And so for those of you who don't have any recording knowledge of any kind, you are here on Zoom. If you initiate the meeting yourself, if you scroll down or move your cursor around, you see that little record button down at the bottom. If it's your meeting, that record button is active, and you can do stuff like that right away. So even if you don't think you have recording possibilities, capabilities, you actually do. And that's just one of the things that you can do. Wes also posted something here. Best case for setting up Zoom for music can be found here, the Hambones open mic thing that he put together. Thank you very much for that, Wes. So again, make sure that you go over to the chat right now, grab that so you don't lose that. In fact, if you want, you might want to think about just hitting the whole thing to save. There's the three dots next to the word file to save chat, and that will save it to your computer or your phone. Then that way you have all that information available to you forever, pretty much. You can take that and stick it onto a Word file and then create a file for yourself, so you have all those details. Okay, well, is there anything else anybody else wants to discuss, talk about? Otherwise, we'll call it a night. Hope you guys learned. You guys all had a good time, learned something?
It was great. Thank you very much.
Sure. All right.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Jimmy.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for
Jimmy.
coming. Yeah. And, you know, it's really nice to be able to see that you guys are this interested in something, and it's not all about just playing your songs, because unfortunately that's something that a lot of the open mics are. You know, people just want to go there and spout and then go. You know, and that's not what it's all about, man. We got this community going on. We can help each other. We can make things work together, and I'm excited about the potential and the possibility here. And thanks again to all of you that are doing things here. Thanks again to Wes for doing all the tech work for the open mic on the East Coast, for Mark Bays here, who's been doing all the Twitter and stuff like that. It's just been really good. And also Dave Strauss for reposting all the information that's going on there. So appreciate all you guys, and we look forward to seeing you next round. So see you on the 20th. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you, Jimmy.
See you guys on the 20th.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Jimmy.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.